Welcome everyone to AstraZeneca's 2026 Sustainability Update for Investors and Analysts. I'm Philip Sparks, Director of Investor Relations, and before we hear from Pam and members of our sustainability team, I'd like to remind you of our forward-looking statements, including our safe harbor provisions. And now I will hand over to our EVP Global Operations and Chief Sustainability Officer, Pam Cheng, who will run through the latest progress in our sustainability strategy before we move on to Q&A. Pam, over to you.
Thanks, Phil, and welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. In addition to leading our global operations, which includes manufacturing and supply and global IT, I have had the pleasure of being AstraZeneca's Chief Sustainability Officer since 2023. I'm pleased to share an update on our sustainability performance today and welcome any questions at the end. In addition to Phil, I'm joined today by Liz Chatwin, who leads our sustainability strategy and safety, health, and environment, as well as Stefan Weber, who leads policy, advocacy, and health equity. Next slide, please. Let's first start by considering the context we are operating in and why, as a pharmaceutical business, we place a significant focus on sustainability. At AstraZeneca, we are focused on improving health. We understand that the health of people, society, and the planet are deeply interconnected, and we believe we have a role to play in taking action here. Climate change and nature loss are worsening and changing the burden of disease, with a rise in non-communicable diseases and impacts on human health. The delivery of healthcare carries a significant environmental footprint, so we are focused on delivering more sustainable care. At the same time, health systems are under increasing strain, with aging populations, the rising burden of chronic diseases, and continued pressure on healthcare funding. We know that by acting early on disease improves health outcomes and reduces pressure on health systems, as well as minimizing carbon and resource-intensive hospital care. And health disparities are widening within and between countries, worsening health equity and pressures on health systems. I will speak more to this shortly. Ultimately, governments and healthcare providers recognize the need to improve health outcomes through more effective, sustainable care. We believe we can play a key role to help achieve this through collaboration. Next slide, please. Central to improve healthcare is the delivery of the remarkable science and innovation before us. Today's medical breakthroughs can truly transform outcomes for patients. And AI is helping us bring these medicines to patients faster and with a greater probability of success. In R&D, AI is helping to accelerate drug discovery, improve decision-making, and support the design and execution of clinical trials. Across our operations and manufacturing, AI is helping us improve productivity and efficiency, thereby reducing energy use. And digital and AI-enabled tools can support earlier diagnosis, more targeted care, and better patient follow-ups. We are deploying the latest technology to develop medicines and treatment pathways that can help keep patients healthier for longer. This is good for the health of people, as well as society and the planet. Next slide, please. At AstraZeneca, sustainability is embedded in our business strategy. Operating sustainably is good for business and core to operating a responsible, efficient, and resilient business for the long term. Our sustainability strategy focuses on how we make a positive impact through actions on climate and nature, health equity, and health systems resilience, and how we run a sustainable business through a focus on good governance, our people, and values. All of this is underpinned by science. Next slide, please. When it comes to our climate and nature action, over the past decade, we have shown that business growth and decarbonization can go hand in hand. As of December 2025, we have reduced Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 88%, while more than doubling our revenue compared to 2015. Our bold ambition is to reduce Scopes 1 and 2 by 98% by December 2026 where addressable. As a matter of fact, 11 of our sites have already met that goal. We've also made progress on our value chain, or Scope 3 emissions. More than 80% of our supplier spend is with companies with science-based targets. We are making a $500 million investment to transition our pressurized meter-dose inhalers to a next-generation propellant with near-zero global warming potential for respiratory medicines. More on this shortly. We've also transitioned our car fleet to electric vehicles. 81% of our global fleet is now electric. We've also reduced our water and waste by 23% since 2015. These are strong results which we are proud of and continue to double down on. Next slide, please. Now, turning to health equity, our work spans 3 areas: science, healthcare delivery, and community investment. We aim to improve equitable health outcomes in low, middle income, and higher income countries. By the end of 2025, more than 40% of our genomic data came from people in underrepresented populations, an industry-leading achievement. This is key as it will help us develop medicines that will benefit a broader range of patients. Through our Young Health program, we have partnered with more than 60 NGOs, including UNICEF and Plan International. We've reached more than 23 million young people in 56 countries over 15 years. Since 2024, AstraZeneca's health education, screening, and early detection programs have reached more than 49 million people. And 156 million people from underserved communities have been positively impacted by our health equity programs since 2024. Next slide, please. Now, turning to health system resilience. Many health systems remain structurally oriented towards managing disease at later stages, without enough emphasis on prevention and early intervention. Building resilience requires a better balance across the care pathway, with greater focus on acting early to improve outcomes and reduce long-term system pressure. We are co-creating solutions that slow disease progression, reduce hospital admissions, and prevent premature deaths, while helping healthcare professionals to deliver more sustainable care. This includes earlier detection, access to guideline-directed care, and the use of digital technology to identify risk sooner and respond more effectively to patient needs. And we are advocating for evidence-based policy change as a founding member of PHSSR, the Partnership for Health System Resilience and Health System Sustainability and Resilience. We have been driving systemic changes since 2020 alongside our partners across the healthcare sector. The PHSSR is now active in more than 37 countries, has published over 30 reports, and engaged more than 200 policymakers on health system strengthening, translating insights into policy change that is improving care for millions of patients. Next slide, please. Examples of action and impact, as I will just outline, are included in our 2026 Sustainability Impact publication, released in April. Here, we also included our sustainability targets to 2030. Our targets focus on areas of greatest materiality to our business and where we believe we can make the greatest impact. For climate action, we have updated 2 of our 2030 targets. Firstly, Scope 3 emissions, which I will discuss shortly. And secondly, the target for AZ forests, which we have adjusted to planting 100 million trees by 2030. The original target was 200 million. The change is based on our learnings since we've launched the initiative and a more focus on high-quality projects over volume. Our health equity and health systems resilient targets outlined here have not changed over the past few years. Let's these target areas, Scope 3 emissions and health equity. Next slide, please. With great progress having been made in reducing our site and fleet emissions, we are now increasingly focused on reducing the emissions from across our value chain. As we grow to deliver more medicines to more patients, our Scope 3 emissions have increased alongside our business growth with expanded product portfolio, capital investments, and geographically diverse supply chains. Our commitment to our science-based net zero target for 2045 remains steadfast. However, we have recently updated our near-term Scope 3 target to reflect our business growth and aligned it with our ambition to deliver $80 billion in total revenue and 20 new medicines by 2030. Our updated target for 2030 aims to reduce Scope 3 emissions by 35% versus 2019. The original target was 50% reduction off a smaller base given our business growth. It is worth noting that the absolute amount of emission reduction with the new target is the same as the original target. Our action on Scope 3 remains very focused, with key areas outlined on this slide. We are prioritizing supplier engagement. We've engaged our suppliers to adopt science-based targets for several years now, and sustainability requirements are included in supplier contracts. We are expanding supplier access to renewable energy through group initiatives like Energize and the Sustainable Market Initiative Health Systems Task Force, a CEO group to advance the decarbonization of healthcare systems, chaired by AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot. As mentioned, we are focused on sustainable product innovation, including our inhaled respiratory portfolios, transitioning to our next generation propellant. We are reducing the environmental footprint of our products by driving improvements throughout the product life cycle. We are delivering sustainable lines across our sites, utilizing low carbon material and energy efficient architecture. From the UK, Ireland, France, Puerto Rico, China to Singapore, our sites are sustainable by design. We are also reducing our transport footprint by shifting from air to sea freight where possible. And we are optimizing business travels, having cut business air travel by 58% versus 2019. Next slide, please. Turning now to the transition to our next generation propellant, which is core to our Scope 3 progress. The transition of our pressurized meter-dose inhalers to a next-generation propellant is a landmark innovation in sustainable healthcare. We are making a $500 million investment in this propellant with near-zero global warming potential. Our goal is simple: support patients with asthma and COPD, support healthcare systems, and reduce the environmental footprint of respiratory care so that no one has to choose between the most appropriate treatment and a healthier planet. In a world and industry first, last year the UK approved this new generation propellant for one of our respiratory medicines, and it is now in use across the country. The transition is also complete in Europe and other regions to follow very soon. We aim to transition our wider product portfolio by 2030 as part of our Ambition Zero Carbon strategy. Next slide, please. Next, we turn to our work in advancing health equity. Health outcomes are environmental and genetic factors that amplify inequities in every region of the world. Quality, timely healthcare remains out of reach for so many, and those at highest risk of disease often face the greatest barriers to screening, early detection, diagnosis, and treatment. By closing these care gaps, we can improve health outcomes across our therapeutic areas, from cancer to cardiovascular to rare diseases. As our company grows, so does our opportunity to improve access to diagnosis, care, and treatment for underserved patients. We see health equity as an area where sustainability, patient impact, and long-term economic impact comes together. Diagnosing and treating patients earlier can add years of quality life expectancy to individuals and improve the resilience of health systems. Of the 1 billion people we aim to benefit through our health equity programs, we aim to reach 400 million people from underserved groups, as classified by 2 principles. First, we include all patients from low income, low middle income, and upper middle income countries due to the significant challenges assessing quality care in these regions. Second, we include all patients with rare disease due to inherent challenges posed by the rarity of their conditions. We recognize there are limitations with this definition. For example, there are also underserved populations within high-income countries. As our understanding of care gaps both between and within countries deepens, we are committed to refining our classification of underserved groups so that our definition accurately reflects the reality on the ground. Next slide, please. So how will we reach 1 billion people? Most of our patient reach is driven by medicines, given the prevalence of chronic diseases, and that reach will continue to grow. As we bring new medicines to markets, expand our geographic footprint, and work with governments and health systems to improve affordability and access, we are reaching more patients in more places. Beyond medicines, we reach patients through clinical trials, awareness and education, and screening and detection programs. Today, multiple programs across our business units are enabling earlier impact by connecting people to care before disease progression, relieving the burden of late-stage disease for individuals and health systems alike. Healthy Heart Africa is a strong example. The program is now active in 9 countries, including recent expansion into Egypt and Morocco, and has screened more than 80 million patients for elevated blood pressure and chronic kidney disease. In rare disease, we are partnering to expand access to newborn screening and next-generation sequencing, with the aim of identifying serious genetic conditions earlier and connecting children to appropriate intervention sooner. We continue to invest, evolve, and expand, including new programs in lung health equity to reach more underserved patients. Next slide, please. Let me close with 3 points. First, AstraZeneca has made considerable sustainability progress to date, all while our business has grown. we continue to value sustainability and embed it across the company. Second, our few updated targets aim to ensure we are realistic and transparent as we focus on and measure the next phase of our impact. Third, Scope 3 and health equity are two complex areas where the balance between setting bold ambition, driving real action, and bringing others along with us truly matters. I hope this has been a useful update and gives you a clear sense of our progress and our priorities as we continue to play our part in improving the health of people, society, and the planet. I will stop here so we have time to answer questions. Thank you.
And thank you, Pam. And thanks also to those of you on the call who have sent in some questions for Pam, Liz, and Stefan in advance. If you would like to submit a question now, you can do so using the Q&A button, which you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom window. Let's kick off with a question on a hot topic for investors at the moment. And this one comes in from Ben Yeo at RBC. Are AI tools helping reduce waste or energy or supply chain inefficiencies? Can you quantify or make any comments on AI and its impact on sustainability and operations?
Thank you, Ben, for the question. It's very timely indeed. AI is driving measurable efficiencies across our R&D and operations. It can actually help shorten drug development lead times, automate manufacturing processes, and deliver earlier and more precise healthcare, all of which support sustainability and equitable care outcomes. So let me give a few examples. We are leveraging AI to enhance how we digitally model drug candidates, which means that we can now reduce the amount of physical screening required to assess new molecular designs. In development, our AI development agent accelerates pharmaceutical development of our late-stage medicine through digital twins and advanced modeling, and generating roughly 35% productivity by 2030 is our ambition, and at the same time, reducing the lead time by 50%. So in manufacturing, we are using AI to drive efficiencies and productivity, reducing manual tasks and driving right first time, and AI is also helping us save energy through AI monitoring and control. In early diagnosis and early intervention, a good example is our AI tool called Milton. It is trained to identify a patient's risk of developing a disease using data from the UK Biobank in this case. Milton combines de-identified health records with genetic and proteomic data to predict the risk of more than 1,000 diseases, in some cases 10 to 15 years before clinical diagnosis. It's published in Nature Genetics and recognized by the World Economic Forum. Milton accelerates target identification, reduces the time and resources needed in early discovery. A couple of more just to showcase what AI can do in this case. In patient care delivery, AI-enabled biomarkers is helping us get the right medicines to the right patient. This increases the probability of success in our trials and reduces the waste that occurs when patients do not respond to their treatment. AI can also turn low-cost imaging and listening devices into very sophisticated diagnostic tools, which can help the LMICs to make the most of their limited screening resources. And AI also has the potential to identify diseases early in its progression, enabling more efficient treatment than when diseases are diagnosed at a late stage. And lastly, we recognize that AI computing has an environmental impact, and we are embedding sustainability into our AI strategy in a few key ways. First, we are shifting our data centers and compute needs towards more energy efficient infrastructure powered by renewable energy. Then we ensure suppliers have climate transition plans as part of our Ambition Zero Carbon strategy. And then lastly, prioritizing suppliers who are investing in water and energy efficiencies at scale. So as you can see, we have quite a few examples how we are embedding AI into R&D, into our operations to ensure that to help us drive sustainability and more efficiency.
That's great. Thanks, Pam. And as a follow-up to that question, this one comes a lot in the calls I have with investors. Can you tell us a little bit about AZ's approach to AI governance?
Absolutely. This is a very important topic. We govern AI with a focus on human accountability, patient safety, privacy, security, and legal and compliance, and scientific integrity. These are all very important elements. Public AI tools are not permitted for AstraZeneca work unless they have been formally approved. AI use cases are assessed before deployment, and systems that we deem to be higher risk are subject to ongoing validation and monitoring. An AI use case might be deemed high risk because of the scale of the rollout and the consequences of inaccuracy or the sensitivity of the data. So for example, an AI system that determined whether or not a patient could participate in a clinical trial will be treated as a high risk. We apply clear legal boundaries. If an AI use case is prohibited by applicable regulation, we do not allow it. Uses prohibited under the EU AI Act are treated as prohibited globally. Our employees are trained to identify risks and understand the ethical and legal issues around AI. And over 50,000 AZ employees have participated in our in-house training program on thriving in the age of AI that focus quite a bit on AI governance and ethical use of AI.
Thank you. And this is another one from Ben. Can you give any examples of where sustainability investments and thinking have created shareholder value, either through lower costs, better access, or stronger stakeholder relations?
Absolutely. Let me start by saying we really believe sustainability is good for business. Embedding sustainability in our business strategy creates shareholder value by reducing costs, driving operational resilience and efficiency, and reducing pressure on healthcare systems, and at the same time ensuring we can serve patients for the long term. Perhaps I can turn to Liz to share some specific examples. Liz, over to you.
Sure. And thanks, Pam, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the call and for this question. We see numerous examples across our business where sustainability is good for business and good for healthcare systems for now and for the long term. A few examples for you. So with our renewables investments, so we've made investments in sustainable energy, for example, renewable electricity and clean heat, including in the US and China, the UK and Sweden. And through that, we've seen enhanced operational resilience and reduced risk and costs. For example, in particular, we've had reduced exposure to energy price volatility that we've seen this year. Also, I can talk to investments which lower energy and reduce water use and waste across our sites, support long-term operational continuity, and also in some cases reduce our costs. Pam talked extensively about our investment in the next generation propellant, where we're reducing our own footprint and the environmental footprint of respiratory care through the transition of our PMDIs, or our pressurized metered dose inhaler, to a next generation propellant. This was a $500 million investment back in 2020, and we're already starting to see the transition in the UK and Europe, with other markets to follow. We chose to be proactive here in taking action and leading by doing, because we really believed it was the right thing to do. And we see this as really important now, given the increasing nature of environmental regulations. And I can say the launch has been greeted extremely positively by the respiratory community. An example in healthcare, in the United Arab Emirates, they've adopted a guidelines-based care approach to the treatment of CKD, which involves early detection and appropriate treatment, which they've found has reduced costs and the environmental impact of care and improved outcomes for patients. An example in our science portfolio, with one of our new cardiovascular medicines being developed, our scientists have been working extensively on improving the process design to reduce the environmental impact of its manufacturing process when it finally moves to commercial manufacture. So from first in-license to the first commercial stage manufacturing, the environmental impact has reduced by more than 90%, and 40 complicated process steps have reduced by a quarter. So these sustainable design improvements also have the added benefit of lower overall cost of manufacture once the product is launched. As probably a final example, and we have many, is we find that innovations in our manufacturing process that enhance productivity often also have a sustainability benefit. So one example is a new process called continuous direct compression, and this is a capability which has reduced the production time for one of our new hypertension medicines from 20 days to 20 minutes for the production of tablets. This lowers energy use, reduces waste, and supports efficient inventory management, and ultimately helps getting medicines to patients more quickly. So as Pam said, sustainability, we truly believe is good for patients, it's good for healthcare systems, and is also good for our business.
Thanks, Liz. Moving on then to the topic of health systems resilience. This question came in from Richard Adeni-Jones at Northern Trust. Regarding the health systems resilience target, what does AZ need to achieve in order to strengthen the health system of an individual country and then count that country towards the target of 45?
Thank you for the question. Let me start and then hand over to Stefan to give more specifics. In terms of our metrics for health system resilience, a country counts towards the health system resilience target when we can demonstrate that AZ is helping strengthen health systems through evidence-based advocacy and partnership with governments. Perhaps, Stefan, you can go into more specifics. Over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pam, and hello, everyone. So as Pam mentioned in the presentation, our main platform through which we do that is the Partnership for Health System Sustainability and Resilience, PHSSR, which we co-founded in 2020. So through the PHSSR, we commission research with leading local health system and policy researchers, and we use these findings to engage and advocate for evidence-based policies. So it's really research and action, if you want, and then we can count a country towards our target. As you heard before, PHSSR is currently active in 37 countries. We have over 30 research reports published already, and we're expanding the scope of PHSSR geographically and also across different health system problems. But this year we expect to launch engagements and reports in Mexico, Indonesia, Finland, and Turkey, bringing the total number of PHSSR countries to over 40 by the end of 2026, so close to our target of 45 in our 2030 ambition. An example of that is Greece, for example, where we've recently concluded research on what the health system would need to do to promote earlier action on non-communicable diseases together with the University of West Africa. And with the research findings, then the PHSSR partners and AstraZeneca included, we engaged with the government on the importance of expanding access to early detection of chronic kidney disease, one of the main diseases that causes an immense burden on the Greek health system, on population health outcomes and cost to the economy. So informed by this work, the Greek Ministry of Health then strengthened early detection programs on CKD and introduced a screening program using the National Electronic Prescription Platform to send SMS invitations to high-risk citizens for free diagnostic tests. So as you can see, a really proactive approach of the health system to engage people at risk with a free test, which is obviously important because we know through the research how little people engage and pay for tests for a disease that they don't know they even have or are at risk of having. So the aim of this work is obviously to close the diagnostic gap, enable timely referral to care, and ultimately strengthen the Greek health system resilience while also advancing health equity. So a great example of how we've connected research and policy action.
Thanks, Stefan. Now staying on the topic of health equity, we've actually a couple of questions on the overlap between health equity and AI. One from Francis Effiong, who's asked, given increasing reliance on AI-enabled screening and diagnostics, how does AstraZeneca ensure equitable deployment and mitigate potential biases in underserved populations? And then this one was from Lucy Larner at Schroders. How is your collaboration going with Cure AI to screen 5 million patients, and what is the impact that is having on low to middle income countries?
Great. Thank you for the question. Indeed, Cure AI has some great examples that we have actually accomplished. So maybe, Stefan, could you please share the specifics?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pam, and Lucy and Francis for these important questions. So last year, AstraZeneca and Cure AI announced the successful completion of 5 million artificial intelligence-enabled chest X-rays across more than 20 countries in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. It's really a remarkable achievement if you think about it, and it's demonstrating the transformative potential and reach of AI to improve early lung cancer detection in low and middle income countries. But I would also add in other resource-limited healthcare settings, including in high-income countries, where screening uptake can also be very low. So really to the point that you asked, Francis, on the chat, by design, these programs are made with underserved populations in mind. And a recent study showed that over half of the suspicious lung nodules flagged as high risk by AI on the chest X-rays were confirmed as high risk on computed tomography scans. This is really important because it suggests the approach can help identify more patients, more high-risk patients, and earlier, prioritizing them for follow-up CT scans and supporting more targeted and efficient use of CT-based early detection pathways. We are already seeing strong signals that this approach is working and supporting a stage shift in lung cancer diagnosis. And that's really crucial. As you know, our ultimate goal is to reduce the mortality of lung cancer. And by finding and treating cancer early, it's really the best way to do it. In addition to the partnership with Cure AI that we've spoken about now, we also support other programs that drive early detection. And we work closely with governments, health systems, and patient advocates to scale pilots, but also advance policies for broader patient reach and impact, including, as I mentioned, particularly underserved groups.
Thanks, Stefan. Now moving on to climate and nature. This is a question that came in from Anna Zetterstrom-Bellander from Handelsbanken, Nina Manish from PFA, and also Tilia Astel and Iona Sabuso from Rathbones, all members of the Nature Action 100 Investor Group. And the question was, could you help investors understand how your nature materiality assessment informs target setting, and whether you plan to disclose this linkage more explicitly going forward?
Thank you for the question. Our sustainability targets were developed following a double materiality assessment and an in-depth business review. We focus on areas where we can have the most material impact and targets that I have presented today, specifically for climate and nature, and value chain emissions, water stewardship, waste, circularity, and of course, our commitment to product sustainability, such as the next generation propellant. Our targets are grounded in high quality data, and they are scrutinized and approved by the Sustainability Committee, and remains externally verified and publicly disclosed, and are reported annually. Sustainability reporting is now fully integrated into our annual report, which mirrors the integration of sustainability matters into our company's risk management process. In 2024, we published a TNFD statement, which describes our assessment of nature-related dependencies, impacts, risk, and opportunities. In our 2025 annual report, we outline that our latest double materiality assessment use the same methodology as in 2024. So for further details on the linkage between our materiality assessment and targets, you can continue to refer to our TNFD statement on our website. Some of the examples of our nature strategy in action are practically eliminating the use of horseshoe crab blood derived materials in our water testing, for example. Also building the use of a synthetic alternatives into our quality protocols for new products is another example. All of which we continue to drive sustainable sourcing of priority natural commodities. With AZ Forest, we've planted over 66 million trees of 80 different species to restore land, support biodiverse habitats, and strengthen ecosystems while supporting community investments. Thank you.
Great. And sticking with climate and nature, this one came in from Tessa Younger at CCLA. Given the progress already made on operational emissions, could you provide a visual decarbonisation pathway chart that quantifies expected absolute emission reductions across the main levers of energy manufacturing, suppliers, and product design?
Thank you. As I've mentioned, we've achieved an 88% reduction in our scopes 1 and 2 emissions versus 2015, demonstrating that business growth and decarbonization can actually go hand in hand. We aim to achieve a 98% reduction by year-end 2026 where addressable. We've achieved this progress by focusing on energy efficiency and switching to renewables across our sites and transitioning our global fleet to electric vehicles. As we are committed to net zero by 2045, the majority of our remaining emissions are generated across our value chain. We transparently report Scope 3 emissions annually with third-party assurance. We don't publish a year-by-year waterfall because Scope 3 emission reductions are inherently non-linear and will evolve further with data quality improvements, portfolio evolution, and supplier decarbonization rates. What we are very clear about is focusing our decarbonization efforts on our most material areas. In the near term, a critical lever for us is the transition of our PMDI portfolio, as mentioned, to the next generation propellant with near zero global warming potential, because these emissions represent 26% of our total Scope 3 footprint. It's a good example of this non-linearity. Respiratory sales have outperformed analyst projections, which is positive for patients and for business, but it also has increased Scope 3 emissions recently, since most of today's portfolio still use our original propellant. However, our aim is clear, which is to reduce these emissions by transitioning our PMDI portfolio to the new propellant by 2030. So we have also reduced our business travel by half since 2019 and reduced emissions from the distribution of our products. This is quite significant and impressive given our business growth. We have doubled our revenue over the past 10 plus years, and we continue to grow our top line revenue and our portfolio, but at the same time, we've reduced our business travel by half and also reduced our distribution and freight emissions. We are also focusing on our suppliers, as the goods and services we purchase are a large proportion of our Scope 3 emissions. To date, more than 80% of our suppliers have committed to science-based targets, and we've now are working with our top suppliers on specific decarbonization actions. So overall, our approach is to focus on credible disclosure of the baseline, clarity on the main decarbonization levers, and transparent update on an annual progress. We believe that this is the more transparent way to go and to show how growth and decarbonization can coexist across the value chain. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Here's another one we've had in from Francis Effiong on the topic of Scope 3. So while over 80% of supplier spend is aligned with science-based targets, how does AstraZeneca track supply performance against these targets, and what escalation mechanisms exist for non-compliance?
That's a great question. Perhaps, Liz, hand it over to you.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Francis. So as Pam mentioned, we've been working for several years now on ensuring that the vast majority of our spend is signed up to science-based target, and we've achieved the more than 80% result, as Pam said. We now build sustainability expectations into supplier contracts, and we've been facilitating support and access to PPA. So that's power purchase agreement for renewables across several markets. For example, in China, we've included many of our suppliers into our joint PPA with the Sustainable Markets Initiative Task Force, and we've also worked with Energize to help our suppliers. Many of our emissions with our suppliers are multifactorial. They're from many different areas of our business. So we're now working with our top suppliers, as Pam said, on decarbonisation action. So that is the work that they're doing with us. For example, whether they're manufacturing our products, whether they're helping us with particular clinical trials, on what specific actions we can take together to reduce those emissions. So that's where we're up to right now. Very active with our suppliers on our emissions reduction plans.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, so I think we've got time for one more before we have to wrap up. And it's another one from Ben Yeoh from RBC. And he's asked, how early on in the R&D and commercialization process are sustainability matters taken into account in, for example, device design, packaging, or even molecule development?
This is actually a really excellent question, because the best way to be sustainable is we start from the beginning, so we don't have to decarbonize. So we know that early stage scientific decisions, long before a potential medicine reaches the patient, can actually, as I say, play a huge role in their long-term sustainability impact. And that's why we embed sustainability across our R&D and treat it as foundational to innovation. We call it sustainability by design. In development, for example, we want to start with green chemistry from day one, for example, as we develop commercial processes that we can scale up and commercially manufacture at a much larger scale for years to come. So perhaps, Liz, let me hand it over to you for more examples.
Great. You've already shared one example, Pam, that we made the decision back in 2020 to invest in the next generation repellent, and we see the first approvals in 2025. So we really needed to start that early. As I mentioned before, with one of our new cardiovascular medicines that we started to work on immediately from in-licensing that medicine to reduce the complicated process steps, take out solvents, and take out carbon in the manufacturing process, so that eventually when it gets to market, it will be a much lower emitting product and also a lower cost to manufacture. In our labs, we adopt a circular approach to solvent use. We collect, purify, and reuse these materials, and we know that reduces significantly the CO2 impact. In fact, just with recycling our solvents in our labs, we've removed a similar amount of carbon to removing 169 cars from the road. Early on, we used flow chemistry. Rather than making drugs in large batches, chemicals move through a continuous process that's more energy efficient and enables actually more precise processing. We use a technique called biocatalysis, which uses natural and biodegradable enzymes to speed up chemical reactions, which allows for a single step route to a desired molecule that might normally require multiple synthesis steps. So our scientists are extremely engaged to look at these efficiencies and minimize resource use and resultant carbon impact. I spoke to you earlier about the new technology, the CDC, or the continuous direct compression. This was something that was started to be developed several years ago, and we know that these enhancements in manufacturing process need to be worked through several years in advance. As a final example, in terms of packaging types, We need to start very early here with developing new packaging types, as our medicines often have long development and regulatory lead times. And we often need to invest in new line structure and line tooling. So, for example, we're now working on a non-PVC recyclable polypropylene blister material for several upcoming launches, which will allow future blister materials to be safely recycled when eventually they are available to patients. So you can see that we think about this very early in the development process, and our scientists across the company are engaged very actively in how we can make our future portfolio more sustainable. Handing that to you, Phil.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Liz. It looks like we're running out of time. We can talk about this for a lot longer. But let me close by saying that we really, really believe that sustainability is good for business. And hopefully you have seen from the many examples that we've talked about over the past 45 minutes that embedding sustainability in our business strategy really creates shareholder value. And at the same time, it's good for the people, the society, and the planet. Thank you very much. Phil, over to you.
That's great. Thank you so much to Pam, Liz, and Stefan for your time today. And thanks to everyone who's joined the call. And to those few of you who've got questions that we didn't have time to get round to, I will follow up with you afterwards. For anyone who has any further questions on our sustainability strategy and goals, then you can reach out to the investor relations team here at AstraZeneca. Goodbye.